For over 30 years, the metric of David's success was simple: the rising digits of his bank account and the sharp exponential graph of his tech company's growth. He was a self-made entrepreneur, starting from a cramped studio apartment and building a global digital cybersecurity empire. But 5 years ago, the metric changed. David met Chloe. She was young, vibrant, and possessed a beauty that was dangerous. Chloe was a sharp, diamond-cutter socialite who knew how to shine in any light. David was instantly captivated, seeing her not as she was, but as his greatest achievement. He courted her with the same aggression he used to close multi-million-dollar mergers. 6 months after their meeting, they had a royal tier wedding at a 5-star Mediterranean resort. David showered his new wife with absolute unfiltered luxury. He bought her diamond necklaces that cost more than a family home, custom European sports cars, and a massive oceanfront mansion on the quietest, most exclusive beach in the city. The mansion was fully staffed with a team that anticipating Chloe's every single whim. Chloe absorbed this devotion like a sponge. David was completely blinded by his love, believing Chloe married him for who he was, his drive, his ambition. Meanwhile, David's younger sister, Elena, quietly lived a world away. She was the polar opposite of Chloe, humble, observant, and deeply ethical. Elena quietly tried to warn her brother about Chloe's toxic spending habits, her complete lack of interest in David's happiness, and her obvious gold-digging behavior. She would watch Chloe order a vintage bottle of wine and take a single sip before sending it back, or dismiss the cleaning staff with a single arrogant flick of her hand. Elena stayed in the background, working a modest job as a high school librarian, but she remained David's only anchor to reality. David, however, completely ignored her. Chloe, fully aware of Elena's disapproval, simply looked down on her with an open, venomous disdain, calling her a low-level paper pusher. Chloe treated David like a personal, endlessly bank account, completely draining his emotional energy and demanding more with every wire transfer. The fragile house of cards collapsed in a single brutal week. Due to a sudden, unpredictable global market crash, 2 of David's massive offshore tech mergers failed. Rumors of his impending insolvency spread through the financial district like wildfire, triggering a terrifying collapse of his company's stock. Investors pulled their funding instantly. David spent 48 sleepless hours in his glass-walled corporate tower, watching his 30 years of labor crumble. By Friday morning, his empire was officially bankrupt. The bank moved instantly to seize his mansion, his luxury cars, and every single corporate and personal asset associated with his name. He came home pale, trembling, and smelling of stale coffee and anxiety. He found Chloe in the living room, elegantly dressed. When David began to tell her they had lost everything, that they was literally homeless, she didn't offer a single word of comfort. She didn't hold his hand or ask if he was okay. Instead, she already had her custom luxury suitcases packed by the door, surrounded by a pile of designer shopping bags. "David, this is pathetic," Chloe said coldly, her voice devoid of any human empathy. She slowly slipped her massive 15-carat diamond wedding ring onto the oak table. "I didn't sign up for poverty. I belong at the top, and you, my friend, are a loser now. Find someone else to sleep on the floor with." She picked up her bags, got into a taxi, and filed for divorce the very next morning, leaving him completely broken in an empty house, staring at the front door as the echo of its closing faded. Left entirely homeless, penniless, and cast into the freezing rain. David was completely abandoned. His high society friends, potential investors, and corporate partners, every single person who had happily accepted his luxury dinners and massive donations, simply vanished. They blocked his number, ignored his emails, and left him to face the fallout alone. The only person who showed up was Elena. She found him on a park bench, shivering in a cheap hoodie, staring blankly at the wet pavement. She took him to her tiny, dilapidated basement apartment on the rough edge of the city. The apartment was a world away from David's oceanfront mansion. The walls were heavily stained with dampness. The air smelled of mold and old pipes, and the only window looked directly out at a concrete alleyway. David fell into a deep, debilitating depression, unable to eat or sleep, staring at the floor for hours. He was broken not just by the financial loss, but by the absolute human betrayal. Elena threw her entire life into chaos to manage his crisis. She worked double shifts at the library and took an evening job as a commercial cleaner just to buy groceries and keep a roof over their heads. While David was suffering in the damp shadows of the city, Chloe was already flaunting her new life. She didn't spend even a single night mourning the loss of her marriage. Her instant desertion made waves in the socialite circle, but she quickly used it to her advantage. Before the divorce papers were even finalized, she targeted and married David's older, wealthy corporate rival, a ruthless millionaire named Richard. Richard was older, less ambitious, but possessed an absolute, unshakable fortune. For him, Chloe was a beautiful trophy to parade around. Chloe was back in a luxury penthouse, throwing lavish cocktail parties and posting her extreme wealth on social media, with an arrogance that bordered on pathological. Whenever her friends or social media followers asked about her bankrupt ex-husband, Chloe would scoff elegantly, adjusting her gold watch. David was weak, she would say smoothly. He let ambition cloud his judgment. I belong at the top, and losers stay at the bottom. The money didn't blind me. It revealed who I was truly meant to be with. 2 years passed. In that quiet basement, Elena's unyielding faith, her gentle persistence, and her absolute refusal to give up on David finally pushed him to start over. He realized that the metric of success wasn't the rise of digits, but the quality of the people by his side. Working from a cheap, used laptop he had salvaged from a recycling center, David began to code. He took his deep understanding of cybersecurity and simplified it, creating a revolutionary new, user-friendly digital protection software. The project caught the attention of major international investors who were looking for ethical tech. They recognized David's genius and his new, humble perspective. He secured a massive new fortune. David bought a beautiful country estate for himself and Elena, completely rising from the ashes of his previous life. He built his new company on transparency and ethical growth, ensuring Elena would never have to work another day. Meanwhile, Chloe's new life was on the brink of collapse. Her new husband, Richard, discovered that Chloe had been secretly forging his signature to transfer massive corporate funds into her personal accounts to maintain her pathological spending habits. Richard, being a ruthless businessman, didn't just divorce her. He used his massive legal team to completely ruin her. He froze all her personal and joint bank accounts, exposed her financial fraud to the national media, and ensured she would face significant criminal charges. To make matters worse, Chloe's toxic lifestyle caught up with her. The stress, the massive financial collapse, and her complete isolation led to the development of a severe, debilitating nerve illness. The expensive private clinics that had happily accepting her cash now rejected her. Chloe was completely broke and faced with a severe health crisis that left her partially paralyzed and unable to afford any basic private health care. Chloe ended up on a thin, plastic-covered mattress in a crowded, understaffed public charity ward of a massive city hospital. The air smelled of industrial bleach and neglect. She lay there with no money, no staff, and no friends to bring her a glass of water. She was completely broken, staring at the stained ceiling of the public ward, with nothing left but her own toxic memory of a life built on a mother's tears. On a brilliant spring morning, the heavy iron door of the public ward opened. David walked in. He looked sharp in a tailored, custom-fit suit, carrying himself with an ancient, calm clarity. The other generic public ward patients stared at him with an automatic respect. Chloe looked up, her eyes wide with frantic sudden hope and soft tears, begging him, "David, please. I made a massive mistake. The money completely blindfolded me. Take me back. I have absolutely no one left in the world." David looked at her with a calm, freezing clarity. He didn't show any anger. He didn't show any judgment. He slowly placed a single gold coin on her bedside table, the exact cost of the taxi she took the night she abandoned him in that oceanfront mansion. "You didn't sign up for poverty, Chloe," David said quietly, "and I didn't sign up for betrayal. Karma has delivered your exact script. Enjoy the floor." He turned around and walked out into the sunlight, leaving her completely alone in the dark.